and we will take up the mains topic. Now, this news article featured on page number 10 of the Indian Express newspaper, and recently AIMS has AIMS Delhi has planned to create a center for excellence for transgender people. Now, according to the author, or if you are aware generally, the transgender people have faced historical discrimination, and this discrimination has led to their marginalization. Okay, so this marginalization, they are on the margins of the society. They are not yet mainstreamed. The surprising fact is, it was just in 2014 when a Supreme Court judgment in Nalsa case recognized the right of the transgender people to be recognized as a third gender itself. So we are living in 21st century, and it was just in 2014 when when we gave legal recognition to transgender people. So author says that 2011 census, if we take the data, because the new census is yet to come, there are 4.9 lakh transgender people in India. Okay, so though this is a welcome step that AIMS is planning to create a center for excellence, but is it sufficient? Or this one center for excellence can remove the deep seated stigma related to the transgenders? So, according to author, much more has to be done, because if you will consider the transgender person, the stigma or the marginalization is such and such that their general behavior is termed as mental disease altogether. Okay, and everyone is of kind of, they want a safe distance from them. They don't want them to accept as a proper gender or third gender, anything like they are existent at all. Okay, for many people in India. So author says that just creating one center for excellence would not be enough. Fine. So in this discussion, what we will look into, we will look into the challenges pertaining to the transgender people. We will see what are the solutions for that, and we will also briefly look into what the government steps has been taken in this regard. But moving any further, you know that this topic is important from the perspective of paper 2, that is social justice, which mentions the vulnerable section and their issues, government initiatives and its outcome. So before moving any further and before discussing anything, you must understand what is transgender. Is there any legal definition? Is there anything like that? So yes. Now, Transgender Persons Protection of Right Acts 2019 defines a transgender person as one whose gender does not match the gender assigned at birth. Okay, so whenever whatever the gender you one has been assigned when one gets birth, and it is not matching the gender at present, the person can be recognized, or yes, recognized as transgender. It includes trans men, trans women, person with intersex variations, gender queers, persons with socio-cultural identities such as Kinnar and Hijra. All these categories have been well defined in this Act of 2019. Now, you know that there are several issues like a very unscientific and inhuman practice of conversion therapy, which is being frequently practiced by medical practitioners on these transgender people. But this is just one problem. There are several issues which are related to the transgender, and yes, they are at the forefront of facing all these challenges. So, first is social stigma and discrimination. Now, you all are aware of the stigma attached that we discussed just that even we claim that their behavior or their attributes are related to the mental disease altogether. So, what happens? This stigma and discrimination starts at the level of family itself, where family first tries to hide the identity. They first try to hide the identity, and when they fail, there is complete exclusion, or you may say eviction of a person from the household itself. So just imagine if a child gets excluded or rejected from his family altogether, what would he do? What would one do when one is evicted from his or her house at a very nascent stage? They are bound to uh, roam like a scavenger, and they are bound to get into the professions of begging and prostitution, etc. So it's kind of pushing them into a vicious cycle, and it does not end here. Now, if you will come to the education, our education school system is not ready to. You might have heard about Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan and other schemes which are bringing out the changes and infrastructure for making accessibility and inclusivity for physically challenged people, persons with disabilities. But for transgender, we are mentally not prepared. We have no curriculum altogether. We are not ready to accept them in a school. Even one, if one gets into school, he or she will be kind of, they will face the bullying. They will face the all kind of atrocities by their classmates, by their teacher, which will ultimately lead to their dropping out from the schools. Okay. And when a person is not getting education, a person is not getting the required set of skills, it will definitely impact the future prospect. Okay. And if you will club it with the stigma and the rejection by the family, the problem aggravates. Okay. So first challenge is social stigma and discrimination, and all other points are stemming out from this particular problem only, and you will see them one by one. Now, if a person is cornered, or better word would be sidelined, and is subjected to bullying, harassment, then the violence, he or she, the person would be more vulnerable to the violence as well as harassment, and it can happen outside, okay, as well as at home. Fine. Third, as we saw that there are high rate of school dropouts. They are not going to school because school structure, infrastructure, and methodologies that Indian schools have been adopting are not very inclusive if we consider the issues of transgender. Okay, so when they have low skill set and no backing, ultimately this is going to make a negative impact on their future career prospects. They are not going to get any good job in general. Okay, even if they will get the job, this harassment, violence, and bullying will keep on going, and ultimately they will be out from this economic mainstreaming process also. So it makes them economically vulnerable from childhood itself, because during their childhood time, they are being neglected for food. They will be last when people will consider them to provide nutritious food or health care or anything. And if they are ousted from their houses, they have no support from the society, from the home. So it makes them more economically vulnerable, and that pushes them to jobs like beggar or prostitution or crimes. Fine. So these are the challenges. Next is, if you will consider all of three challenges, it is going to impact the mental health concerns of a person, because from home to workplace to school to colleges, anywhere the person is going, they are facing stigma, discrimination, bullying, violence, harassment, vulnerability, all other things. So just imagine what is the impact of such activities or such behavior of society on an individual. It is definitely going to impact their mental health. Okay, and when they want to reach out to any for any medical health care, then don't you realize that our, as we talked about school, our medical facilities are also not sensitized toward their special needs. Okay, so if you will just talk about toilets, you might have seen male toilet, female toilet, but there is no specific space for them to change or to just get relieved. Nothing is like nothing like that. So even if a person is facing mental health issues, he or she will be traumatized when they will not get adequate medical attention, because again the stigma is there, and facilities are also not shaped or created for to cater their specific needs. And further, if you will look into the government procedures, despite this judgment and despite this act pronouncing this Transgender Person Rights Act 2019, pronouncing that they have right of self identity, still they require a certification from a third person. Okay, uh, to be recognized as a transgender, you have to get a certification from district magistrate. Now just recall that recently there was a debate around the medical termination of pregnancy act. Now what was the issue? Women were demanding that where is the autonomy when a doctor will decide whether I can go ahead with abortion or not. So where is my bodily autonomy? Now just imagine, you need a district magistrate to decide upon to issue a certificate that whether you are a transgender or not. And you all know the government procedures. Okay, it involves paperwork, it involves different levels. So if someone don't wants to reveal it to world, he or she may face the person may face difficulty to hide the identity altogether. Okay, and if you will go for the passport work in India, still there is no choice of third gender option. So yes, they need documentation. How many of us have asked our DM or SDM for a certificate for being male or female? I guess no one. But they have to get a certificate. So these are the challenges which affects their growth and assimilation in the society in a streamlined manner. So government has came up with two important initiatives. First is Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019. You have seen the definition, that what would be the definition. It also talks about the penal provisions for offenses. Okay. It also talks about the government's responsibility to provide welfare, to provide for the welfare of transgender people. All these details have been listed in the PDF provided. You can check the PDF through the link provided in the comment box. Okay. Second very important scheme is Smile scheme. Now this is a umbrella scheme for welfare of transgender people. Now it has two subcomponent. One is for rehabilitation of person who are engaged in begging, and another one is comprehensive rehabilitation scheme for transgenders. Details regarding this scheme has also been provided in the PDF. You can refer to the PDF and understand what are the provisions they have provided in these two schemes. So that brings us to the way ahead. What is the way forward? What is the solution to these challenges? Now, solution lies in the problem itself. So I have listed the problem and you can easily understand what needs to be done. First is, as is true with any issue in India, there are laws, there are mechanism, there are administrative setup, there are everything. Problem lies with effective implementation. There is always loophole. Person who is entrusted with such with certain duty will not perform his or her duty. They will ask for bribery. Then they will keep the person roaming here and there. The person will be rushing and getting tired. So the implementation part should be strengthened, and that should be the first priority, that these acts as well as schemes, the implementation part should be strengthened. Second is, you know that education and awareness is very important, not for the transgenders, for us, because we must understand the issues of the transgenders first. Second, we must remain open enough toward their crisis, and our education system must foster the value of acceptance, because problem starts there when you attach stigma with any person. So yes, there should be education and awareness, and the module should be created or curated in a manner so that it should foster the value of acceptance, as well as people must understand the issues and challenges pertaining to the transgenders. Next is, you must provide, it is not just about skilling them. You have seen that there is violence, there is exclusion at workplaces. Even if somehow they reach to a workplace, they are being bullied, they are being harassed, they are being put to the sexual violence altogether. So they are bound to leave their workplace. So just upskilling is not important for them. It is important to provide favorable employment opportunities, which must take care of their specific needs. So the environment should be maintained as such. Plus, the companies or the sector together, which is providing job, the stakeholders should be sensitized so as to make policies and procedures in a manner that should be inclusive and that should make accessibility a reality for transgenders. Again, we talked about the toilets, we talk about the healthcare access. Now, again, you need to provide the accessible and inclusive set of healthcare infrastructure in which their concerns are being addressed. They must be, the doctors must be sensitive enough towards their issues and challenges. We should remove those hurdles which make them which keep them away from the hospital itself. Okay, then you all the next point is quite simple, that non-discriminatory housing. Just imagine a transgender is moving door to door to find a rented house. So in general people will refuse. So we need to provide those facilities also. And the most important point is community group should come together and at the forefront to take up the cause of transgenders. Okay, then the legal group also, they should form there should be legal groups in which legal luminaries should come forward to provide them the legal aid and the support they require from the government itself. So these 2 points are very important, that is community support and legal aid and advocacy. Further, government, whenever they are formulating any policies, they must collaborate with the NGOs. The NGOs which are working on grounds, they know the ground reality, they know where to intervene, they know what to intervene and when to intervene. So the collaboration of government with NGOs is quite important. Next is, I would like to draw your attention that point of media representation of transgenders. Now, of lately, there are some movies like Lakshmi where uh, there was a positive portrayal of a transgender. Sharat Kelkar was the actor. Otherwise, most of the movies project them as a laughing stock, okay, or in a negative light. So this portrayal should be stopped. They must be shown in a positive light. Otherwise, the child who is growing, watching movies, watching serials, watching TV, if one is growing and watching all these uh, portrayal of a transgender, the child is bound to behave in that manner. The transgender is a matter of laugh or fun or stigma for a child who is growing up watching such movies or serials or advertisement. So the media representation should be positive, and we must inculcate such values through media representation, that yes, they are also what anyone else, and they have a positive role and they can do wonders. So such portrayal should be promoted. Apart from that, the gender neutral facilities and skill development we already covered in other way forwards. And through this, one can address the social stigma, the economic vulnerability, the mental health concerns, and the identity documentation issue should be taken up at earliest, and some other methodologies some must be found to address this issue. So that takes us to the second topic of today's discussion, which is related to the US Principal Deputy NSA's visit to India. And he's in India for a high level talk with the Indian government and the dignitaries. And this news article talks about a latest development in which US Department of Justice has linked an Indian government official with a murder plot of a Khalistani terrorist. And of lately, there was an indictment also by the US government. So both India and US are walking on a tightrope. India has said that